guess what, everyone? It's more Boob Tube Boys. I'm Spencer Hendricks. I'm going to be hosting these episodes. We're going to be covering it this week, and then next we go the slightly newer version of Saved by the Bell. But you can tell by the theme song that's what we're doing. And I'm going to have some help today. Brian Vaughn, what do you think about that theme song we just heard?
Oh, pretty rockin'. We can hear it. Actually, right now, it's still fading out a little bit. You can hear this guitar player just going apeshit while these kids arrive at school. And there's also a piano player really ringing that one note out, just repeatedly. It's a pretty infectious song. It's definitely one that I used to move around to a little bit when I was 9.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fond of that song, and I'm going to talk more later about how I kind of grew up with this show a little bit, but I was pretty fond of the show as well, to be perfectly honest. Vanley, you're probably not so fond of it.
You know, I watched it, but I didn't resonate with me, which is weird because this is something that probably should have.
It is kind of a clone of a few of the other shows we've done.
Sure.
So, yeah, the California Dreams and Hey Dude, this is not that dissimilar.
And it was to the point where I know the characters.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the tropes that went on, the soliloquies that Zach does, stuff like that. I knew, I recognized, I've seen, but I just don't have, I don't want to say positive thoughts about it because I love the theme song. I could sing the theme song. But it just didn't resonate with me.
No connection with you. I see. That's okay. We're going to see if we can tap into the connection the audience may have with the show. It aired from 89 to 93. 4 main seasons, and then of course they did something weird with like the college years later.
6 or 7 spinoffs.
Yeah,
sure.
There's also a Hawaiian season.
style wedding in Las Vegas, I guess, with Zach and Kelly. So
I've seen all of this.
I haven't seen any of the stuff after the main 4, but I probably seen all of those when I was a kid. So I've seen most of these. So the synopsis of the show, of course, for the few of people who would be listening that don't already know, it's a close-knit group of 6 friends. And they get through their teens together while attending Bayside High School in Palisades, California. So
eventually,
a general premise
in
here.
Indiana for a while.
It actually started as a show called Good Morning Bliss for the Disney Channel, and it was centered around a 6th grade teacher. So I think that was about 13 episodes, and it just didn't work. The show creator kind of recognized that the kids were a more interesting group of characters to follow than the teacher, so they revamped it around the students instead of the teacher and redid it into Saved by the Bell.
So is this similar to the California Dreams thing, where that's the first season, and then the second season, Saved by the Bell, is what we know it as at the school?
Right, but I believe only 4 characters made it from that initial attempt in, like, I think it was 87 to the 89 version of Saved by the Bell. So they revamped it very much so, and they fired most of the cast and kept just 4, who I'll talk about here. And they completely changed the premise, not so much around the teacher, but the students instead. So
I guess that's just a trend with this type of show.
And they actually aired these on Saturday mornings initially, which was new at the time. It was just animated stuff at that time, Saturday mornings. This was the first attempt for a network to kind of capitalize on a slightly older child audience in morning TV. So I guess at the time it was something revolutionary. And of course, we've got our main cast here. Zach Morris is the main kid. He was written to be a charming shithead, which they don't say that officially, but the creator had in mind this kid who you know is lying to you to your face, but you just can't resist him because he's so charming and so likable. So you know he's lying, you know he's trying to take advantage of you, but you can't help but like him anyway. That's Zach. He's played by Mark Paul Gosselaar. I've never really known how to say that name.
What's good for the Mark Paul is good for the Gosselaar. There's an idiom.
Yeah, a very common one.
And he was actually the breakout star of that failed attempt to make the first show in 87, the Good Morning Miss Bliss show. So they knew they had to bring him along for the retooled, what became Saved by the Bell. Screech was the second character that they knew they were, and he was also in the original. They needed a nerdy best friend to Zach, because Zach's
another
so cool.
can't miss prospect.
Like, this guy, he's got to be in the show.
And
success right here.
Screech, of course, played by the late Dustin Diamond. And then the other one who was the only other kid that was in the original was Lisa Turtle. Yes, Turtle. And that was Lark Voorhees.
Worst name I've ever heard in my life.
I think it's like maybe the coolest name. I'm not sure.
My phone corrected it to Mark, which I almost called her. Mark Voorhees. And then the principal.
That was Jason's dad.
the principal, Gerald Belding, was the other guy who made it from the original
They
show.
kept Mr. Belding. I mean, I agree. I think they should because he's one of my favorite characters in the show. But that's interesting. To
Dennis
me.
Haskins, yeah, they and he wasn't. They apparently, I think some guy named Earl Clark was the original guy. He was older and not funny, but they replaced him with Dennis Haskins,
who's very young and attractive and hilarious.
I like the idea that the original one was like a dark, like cryptic principal.
He was humorless, apparently, an old humorless guy, and they thought, let's make him weird instead.
So, having actually seen some of the episodes of the pre-Saved by the Bell,
did you really?
Yes.
Wow.
So, one thing I'll say about it is a much more. It's not that that Saved by the Bell proper is not, but it's like a super wholesome type of thing.
Because it revolved around the teacher instead.
It revolved around the teacher, Mrs. Bliss, who's played by Haley
she was
Mills.
a wonderful, wonderful person who cared about her students.
Yes, a ton, and the actress had a very, very good reputation as far as like making family content before that.
Did you know that they tried to get Sandy Duncan to play that part? I was reading that in the wiki. So I don't really know that much about Sandy Duncan, but I guess she was a big deal in the 80s, like a major sitcom star in the 80s.
Was she part of the Brat Pack?
I did. I think she was more wholesome than that. But
okay,
I think
she wasn't doing drugs.
She was a mom in the sitcom.
Robert Downey Jr. and Demi Moore.
Oh, okay, I know who that is now.
I think we'd all know her, but yeah, that's going to be a little bit before we were watching a lot of TV, but
or doing anything other than like
that's
shitting.
True.
Our
In
diapers.
some cases, probably not even that. We were probably not even doing that at some point in her career. But regardless, there's a few more when they added this when they retooled the show. They added a whole mess of other characters that would round out the cast.
Mario Lopez.
Yes, that's the first one we're going to talk about, which is AC Slater,
Army brat.
They envisioned him as a young John Travolta type with a leather jacket and being an army brat.
Turns out he just wears A-shirts and shows off his muscles instead.
Wouldn't you?
I mean, if I look like Mario Lopez, sure.
I don't know if I would. And
I wouldn't because I don't like showing any skin at all.
It's hard
but you would be the kind of person who had Mario Lopez's body, so you would be someone who worked out a lot.
But
that's true.
You can't watch any scenes with Slater without just being disgusted. He's such a douche, and I hate him.
He's pretty bad.
Yeah. Anyway, that's they wanted to give some kind of foil to Zach with because Zach's preppy and charming. So AC Slater's he's a I don't know. I guess
almost a sexy bad
jock?
boy.
Yeah, like
jock,
it's definitely jock.
Stupid jock.
Yeah, and they throughout the series insult each other a lot in that manner. Yeah, preppy and meathead, those types of things.
And then we've got Kelly Kapowski. Tiffany Amber Thiessen plays her, and that is the love interest of both AC Slater and Zach. They are constantly vying for Kelly.
Now, we'll talk about this when we get into the show because there's a little bit of that. But for Brian, since you know more than anyone apparently, was that like an overarching thing throughout the show, the battle between Zach and Slater for Kelly?
No.
Okay.
So
it was a huge plotline at one point, I'm assuming.
For a while. That's a plotline for a very long time. They resolve it eventually because there's nowhere to go with it. And that's when they eventually pair Slater off with Jesse. So that's actually mentioned on the reboot.
And we've got a
the
clip
next
of
episode
that.
we cover.
It's wonderful. He sounds like he's learned a lot in the course of those 20, 30 years.
But yeah, that is for a while the entire one of the central conflicts is the fight over Kelly.
And it does show up in this episode a lot.
Yes.
It's a huge part of it. So speaking of Jesse, that is the next character that they added to the show. It's Jesse Spano. Is it Spano or Spano? Spano. It should be Spano. It's only got the A, and I believe in long A's in that situation. Spano. It's Spano.
Yeah, it does seem more Spano.
So Jesse Spano, played by Elizabeth Berkley. They actually wanted her to play Kelly's role because they thought that she was a better actress, but they thought that Kelly looked like, in their heads, they thought that Tiffany Amber Thiessen looked more like what Kelly would be.
More like an all-American girl.
Yeah, she was not as strong of an actress, but they wanted her to play the part. So they didn't want to lose Elizabeth Berkley, so they let her play Jessie instead.
Not as gangly as, what's her name? Jessie.
So
I could say that as a gangly human being, particularly.
That's true.
She is very tall.
She is real life tall.
That does come up here.
Does it? It's a central plot point.
Oh, yes.
Jessie's
the other one. We just covered the entire episode's plot. We've got Slater and Zach vying for Kelly and Jesse being tall.
That's essentially seasons like 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, so if you guys are wondering, did the show win anything? It didn't. They did
The hearts and minds of American children.
they did get nominated often for
Nickelodeon
whatever
Slime Awards.
whatever the Young Artist Award is. They got nominated.
That's that
often.
same award
Is
that I keep coming across in my
I don't think that's real.
research.
Yeah, I think that's a thing where it's kind of like, oh, look, you did something. We don't want you to feel
like
bad.
You're in a TV show for kids, so you can get an award. Because there were actors from California Dreams getting nominations.
Yeah, I don't
and
think
Hey Dude.
I don't think it means anything. But yeah, they got nominated for all that stuff too. Mark Parr Gosselaar and Elizabeth Berkley did both win once for Best Young Actor, starring in an off primetime
Probably
series.
the two best actors in this series.
Sure.
I guess of the young cast.
Yeah, I think that most of the acting was okay, but I don't they're not going to win any real awards. And the show itself didn't. It was always the cast that was getting whatever praise they got. It was the cast, not the show.
It didn't win any Saturday morning Emmys.
I'm going to interrupt real quick.
Sure.
Brian,
That's
something just triggered in my brain. There was an episode where Screech was selling pasta sauce from his grandma's recipe.
Yes.
Does this ring a bell?
Absolutely.
But then it turns out she got it out of like a Betty Crocker cookbook.
Yeah, and someone breaks. I feel this is all coming back to me right now as you're saying it. And I feel like someone breaks the news to him, and then Screech is kind of dejected from that.
Maybe.
Because it was like his family history.
Yeah, because it just turned his whole worldview upside down or something.
Yeah, something like that. And I don't know if that's what made Screech invent that robot named Kevin, but that might have been it. Do you remember that? Does anyone remember that?
I vaguely remember hearing about this, but that I don't.
I
couldn't
think that
point
the
to an
actual
image.
robot, like made by the team that made Saved by the Bell, was made out of cardboard too.
I'm really glad that we have this kind of on-site history knowledge of the show. That's fantastic.
He's an encyclopedia.
I've forgotten most of them, but I guarantee you I've seen all the ones you guys just talked about. I just don't remember it that clearly. And this one, I actually was hoping I would enjoy it more, but it was really not a very good episode. I like the reboot a lot better. I know it's bad, but I actually enjoyed the reboot just fine.
I think
for what it was, you have to be in the right
we'll
mood.
get into this probably more after we do the reboot episode, but we are I might save part of my opinion on that for then, but I think we're going to have some different ones between us just based on what I've heard from certain members of the podcast.
yeah, this is going to be exciting to break it all down at the end. So let's go ahead and get right into this one, even though you pretty much have the premise already. It's season 3, episode 6, Blind Dates. Zach tries to cope, and I know I read this at the end of the last episode we did, but I'll do it again. Zach tries to cope when he ends up with 2 dates for the same night. Jesse agrees to a blind date. So there you have it.
The first half of that I don't agree with.
It's
as a description
misleading.
of the show.
Yes.
The second half's fine.
I agree.
I thought that was interesting because you said that. I watched it, didn't connect the dots, read it again, and I was like, wait a minute, that's not at all what happened. It's kind of like 21 Jump Street when they're like, so-and-so goes to prison to get this guy to do a video. No, he does, but that's not at all what it
Fortunately,
is.
you were talking about death sentence in this episode.
Watch the unraveling of America's youth in front of your very eyes.
So we open in the Bayside hallway. Zach is doing one of his asides that no one can hear but the audience. And he's got a big gulp. It's this massive drink he's slurping obnoxiously out of a straw, bragging about how he's gotten his latest stint in detention. And he doesn't care about that because he's too excited about his date with Kelly on Saturday. Kelly's throwing a party for her birthday for herself, and he is going to be there as her date. So that's the opening of the show. I guessed a live audience. I assume I didn't read if that was actually a live audience. It sounded like it. So
I believe yes, live studio audience.
Whooping and hollering.
I remember this episode. I mentioned this to Van when I arrived. I remembered this episode just extremely well as it unfolded. I didn't going in. Like I actually.
Oh, it just all
I
came
confused
back to
some
you.
different plot lines. I remembered the Jesse plot almost entirely. And I, for some
Did
reason...
it strike a chord or something?
No, I'm 5'11".
I guarantee you Jesse is probably that tall, though.
That's
Oh,
true.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
she's-
it would strike a chord with me personally with Elizabeth Berkley, probably.
Yeah.
Who probably is taller than
She
me.
looks quite tall. And, yeah.
But I confused the A plot thinking that Zach's date was actually with a girl in a wheelchair, which is, I think, a plot from another Saved by the Bell episode. But I might be wrong.
Yeah, I can see getting those mixed up. At some point, it'd be a mishmash in your head. So we finish the aside that Zach starts with his situation with Kelly, having the date with Kelly on Saturday. We don't know about his other date yet. We're going to find out about that. So then we're seeing Slater, who's just so charming and lovable. He's talking with Jesse and Lisa about this upcoming party. He has a really great part here where they go into whether or not it's okay to go alone to the party, and he's got some thoughts.
Come on, Lisa, Slater's right. I mean, this is the 90s. Men and women can go to parties alone, and it's perfectly acceptable.
Yeah. Of course, when a guy goes alone, it's because he wants to. Now, when a girl goes alone, it's because she can't get a guy to take her.
Please, I just ate.
Hey, Jesse, when you do that feminist thing, your nose scrunches up and you look so cute.
Yay, Slater. He's got
So
some
anyway,
great
I'm a
points.
piece of shit.
I have in my notes a little dot, and then it says Slater hates women. And that's all I put down for this little section. And it's very, very true. And that is also a very common thread through the show is Slater being the meathead jock who says sexist things, Jesse correcting him, and then also, I feel like, and I shouldn't speak out of school here, there's an idiom, but by the way, we're talking about idioms because we just did a Patreon episode about idioms.
So we're going to be dropping a lot of idioms.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/Bootu Inc. for just $2 a month
Go
or
do
more.
it.
Get access to tons of bonus content.
Yes, you
Tons.
can. But this is a pervasive thing throughout the show where Jesse corrects Slater or is disgusted by him, and then there's like the show goes out of its way to be like, you feminist, as if simply standing up for not being called trash is some sort of stance to be taking.
So I take it they don't ever fix that. They don't ever have
It
an
gets
episode
better.
where he learns,
Well, I mean, yes, they have
Okay.
several, I think, where he kind of learns,
but he just keeps doing it.
it's
But not
part of his
really.
character, and it does get toned down over time.
It's
As
kind of
the,
accurate for the jock, I guess.
It is, and you go, I mean, Zach's not a ton better
No.
throughout the series. So as
I
you
despise Zach. Let me
as
just
you
put
get
that out
toward
there.
the mid '90s, they tone a lot of the.
Okay.
And Jesse's there
Elements
to
down
kind of
like
give
that.
that side of
Yes,
it. Like,
I think
let's
that's
just,
on
like, she was
purpose.
supposed to be a straight A student and a feminist. So
Yeah.
that's kind of her role in the show.
And caffeine pill addict.
Award-winning author.
Yes,
That's kind
that's
of
later.
That's her spot in the
Slater?
show. Nice.
Repartee.
Yeah, we're off to a great start so far.
Slater hardly know her.
So now
Idiom.
it's a commonly used expression.
Yeah.
So now is where we figure out the other part of this episode where Principal Belding rushes out into the hallway. He's a nervous wreck because he needs to find a date for his niece, Penny. And no one's taking him up on it. Screech offers. Belding doesn't want to do that, which is kind of mean because Screech is being earnest. He's being sincere. He's saying, I'll go with her. And he's like, yeah, okay. If nobody else comes along, I'll let you date my poor niece that no one else wants to date.
Did you guys see how Screech left the scene?
No.
They have their little conversation, and Screech turns to leave to walk off set, and he does it by waving his hands in the air like this. I know you can't see this if you're listening, but it's just absurd, and no human would ever leave like that.
I like to think that Dustin Diamond had a lot of character tics for Screech that he personally came up with, and he was very method about them.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, Paul Gosselaar recommended him personally. I guess he thought he would be best at playing Screech, and they casted him, but they didn't know that Screech, based on his face shot, they didn't know how much younger he was. He was significantly younger than the rest of them, and I guess
He looks very young.
they might not have cast him had they known he was younger. But yeah, I guess that was a recommendation directly from Zach himself.
Has the braces here, too.
Yeah, he does. He looks
Was
like a
he
baby.
the only person who was actually around the age they were playing?
Probably.
this time?
Yeah, I didn't look to see how old they actually
Mr.
were in
Belding?
this.
Well, true.
Who has to be just Xanaxed out, the actor. I mean, every scene, because he's doing his job. He does a fine job, but you could tell he's dead.
And he's several years in at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So Zach and Belding are talking about the suspension that Zach's got. Belding is really excited because he says one more and you're going to be suspended.
He loves it. He's so pumped Zach's in trouble.
I think I said suspension before there, but yeah, he's saying that detention is leading to a suspension if he gets one more. So Belding's really excited. Zach's saying it's not going to happen. And there's a little reference here I didn't get where he says, I'm not getting suspended not until cows get Pepsi or give Pepsi.
Give Pepsi.
Give Pepsi. I didn't get it.
So I guess if you're milking the
Yeah,
cow
you
and
get
Pepsi comes out.
That's where
instead
Pepsi
of
comes
milk.
from.
I
guys.
don't know why. Why they thought let's do a pop culture reference about Pepsi right now.
Is this before or after Slater has a thought bubble of Mr. Belding in a wig?
Oh, it's I think right after because that is the whole point is he's trying to get everybody to date his niece, and then when that doesn't work, he's like, fine, well, at least I can rest peacefully knowing that Zach has detention and is going to get suspended soon. So that's how that scene ends.
By the way, I really actually genuinely enjoyed the Slater thought bubble picturing
Oh,
Mr.
sure.
Belding in a wig. It was so dumb
Yeah.
and like shoddily done that I really appreciated that.
Let me say this too. I think corporations are hilarious in the right moment, and no corporation is funnier to me than Pepsi. Like if, I don't know, this is hard to come up with a joke on the spot, but if you're doing a gag where it's a special award, we joke about baseball awards,
Yeah.
the relief pitcher of the year, the Pepsi relief pitcher of the year award is funny.
The
to me.
word is silly.
It's like Pepsi and Doritos.
Yeah,
Those
like
are my two favorite
you wouldn't
ones.
want to say like the Pepsi Pulitzer Prize
Right.
Award winner.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, and you're also at least you were a personal fan of Pepsi.
I mean, I don't drink any of them now, but
yeah, you're
I will
off the
still
juice. You're off the
trout
soda.
Pepsi.
I try
Trout.
not to have too much soda either. It's dangerous. It'll make your brain rot.
I'm on it again real hard right now.
It is, it's addictive.
It's really addictive, and I believe it's I've had a lot of recent life upheaval, and in that happening, I've kind of fallen back on some old habits.
You're like, God, I got to get me a Pepsi Max.
No, I would never drink that swill.
An exciting meal has been ruined by the presence of this liquid filth.
Now let's
69 cent a gallon Pepsi,
Pepsi
Brothers.
Max. The Pepsis.
Pepsi Brothers, too, by the way.
My name's
it's like the
Pete
Wright
Pepsi,
brothers.
and this is Pablo Pepsi, my brother.
We're back to the classroom now. We get to talk about the B plot. Lisa and Jesse are talking about
I love this plot.
arranging the date. Because, again, as we established, Jesse doesn't have one lined up, and that would make her a loser if she didn't have someone to bring. So Lisa's got someone in mind, her next door neighbor, and he's really cute. He goes to a private school. He's amazing.
Cute in a Polly Pocket sort of way.
Lisa really wants Jesse to go with this guy. Jesse says, well, he's not Kevin Costner, so I'm not sure I'm interested.
He's cute in a Waterworld kind of way.
And she's like, okay, maybe, but I'm not sure. I'm not so comfortable with blind dates. I probably would need to meet him first. So you're working on her, but we haven't established that this is going to happen just yet.
Later, we find out it is Kevin Costner, and he's creeping around with high school students.
In this episode, it's legit Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
That'd be so great. Does Jesse ever... Well, I guess you get to
This is
Slater.
the peak of Costner mania.
It is, really, at
That's
this point in
true.
the 90s.
Yeah, if you got in this episode, that you were obviously important to mainstream culture at that time. So we got Pepsi, Kevin Costner. Later on, I think
Several
Arsenio
people later
Hall.
on.
Yeah, in Arsenio Hall for sure.
Yeah, there's some interesting time periods going on here.
Is one of Jesse's perks or quirks in this show that she can't get a man?
No.
Okay.
That's typically not a thing. I think it's playing into the idea that Jesse's a feminist, so like she wouldn't necessarily care about having a date because that's kind of a thing here and there, and then Slater makes her doubt that. But that's kind of one of the inconsistencies of this show trying to tackle things it doesn't understand, such as like a young woman in a difficult time, i.e. the early 90s, trying to grapple with the idea that she's like, hey, I'm a person. And the show doesn't quite, it wants to, I think, present her as like a strong figure, but too often gives her the surface traits, but then she's still like, I need a man for the dance. Which I know, of course, that duality's there because of culture, but yeah.
It's almost like they think that she wants to feel that way, but doesn't really believe it or something. Like maybe there are people like that, but it's not authentic.
It's tough to know what they're going for sometimes.
Further in the classroom, we've established the date situation, but we meet the teacher who's biology, I guess, talking about genes.
This guy rules. He tells an awesome joke. And what do you guys think of the amount of corduroy that he's wearing?
I was most impressed with the fact that there is not a teacher that's ever been that way, and they tried to present him in such. Like, he starts the class with silence, something like that. I get the joke, the comedic presence they were aiming for. No teacher's ever been that way.
They plucked him straight out of England in the 18th century.
He is, though, to your point about his appearance. It's very noteworthy. It's interesting.
Yeah,
his eyebrows.
I wrote
fluffy
down
eyebrows.
And while I was, in fact, under the influence of an edible while watching this episode, I will say that I wrote down he looks like a brick owl.
That's probably pretty accurate, honestly. So he's screaming silence and teaching them about genes, scribbling all over the chalkboard about genes, and the genetic material genes.
I care for jeans greater than anyone else could.
That is actually how
really
he talks
accurate.
too. Yes, it's so bizarre what they thought.
He used to be a Shakespearean actor turned high school teacher, kind of like Spencer and I had an English teacher in high school who very much was that way. Mr.
Again?
Gideon.
And I think we brought him up at one point.
Probably
on a
only on the
bonus episode,
Patreon,
yeah.
but I'll tell you
We
right
can bring
now.
him up as much as you want. That's fine.
Yeah, this is a type of teacher that does exist, sort of.
That one. This one, I don't know.
This one
about.
might not be.
How was Mr. Gideon's eyebrows?
More taken care of than
Yeah,
this.
they weren't all twirled up. It's like he kind of teased that, like with hair gel or something.
I
don't know
really
how
think
did
he
that.
was going to ask us how many bites it took to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop.
Fetch me a bowl for dinner.
So there is a great note reading gag here.
I will swoop down upon my students and grade them.
Where Jesse and Lisa are passing notes back and forth about the date that she's supposed to go on, and they have to pass the note through Zach to get it to each other. The teacher keeps interrupting with, you're taking notes. Why don't you answer my question with what's in your hand? The first time it works, he says, what happens when you read blue eyes, brown eyes, and Zach says, really hot babe with brown eyes or something, which actually works. So they think that, oh, he actually is taking notes. The next time it doesn't quite work when the teacher interrupts and he gets detention because
This feels like it should be Lisa and Jesse's fault also.
It's not really fair, but sometimes it's just not fair at Bayside. So Zach's got his next detention notice, which, as we talked about in the intro, that means
Number 10.
suspension. So we go back to the place where this is going to happen, which is Principal Belding's office, where he has now cornered a new group of people to take Penny on a date with. And before I describe them, let's have you hear directly how they sound.
I need a date for my niece Friday night.
She an oinker or what?
No, she's not an oinker.
Sorry, I'm in training for the next chess tournament.
So?
I wish I could play that role.
Coach says women sap your strength.
All right, what about you?
Well, I can't. I'm busy all weekend. I'm sorting my M&Ms out by color.
Nerds!
Why is Belding turning down Screech, dismissing him, and then he's got two high school students who are old men in his office?
And they high five as they leave the room because
they got out of a
burned
date.
him or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
So why don't these nerds want to date a girl? Come on, nerds.
I think they're in love, but this
Well,
show
good for them, then.
that's the
I'll
subtext here.
retract.
But my main focus is that Mr. Belding, I think
Screech is downright hot compared to those kids. So why does he turn
Screech
Screech
is
down?
way cooler than those kids. He throws his arms in the air when he walks away. He's got weird shirts and poofy hair. I just
makes great spaghetti sauce.
I feel like this is actually a moment where so Mr. Belding was a Screech type nerd.
Okay.
As a child, so he has an unfair hatred and loathing of Screech.
He's not facing his own issues.
His own child issues.
Screech.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Poor Screech, a victim from the very beginning. So
right up until he shanked that guy and went to prison.
Also, can we talk about, apart from Belding's murderous past, can we talk about why and when this stopped with nerds being presented this way on movies and TVs? That was a thing in the late 80s and early 90s.
I'm really glad you brought this up.
Because I don't think that was ever real. I don't think anyone ever acted that way. I realize they probably just sensationalized it to be funny or whatever. But at what point did that just become a thing? That's how we represent nerds. That's what they are.
Well, Revenge of the Nerds came out in the late 80s, and it was and wasn't like these nerds. Because they also presented, what was his name, Bleeder, the guy who burps, the nerd.
Yeah.
So they had
And weren't the
varies
nerds
on it.
pretty rapey?
Oh yeah, no, they rape a woman essentially.
Oh,
She wears a mask and pretends to be her boyfriend, and they do it.
I knew
it's
it
straight
was,
up rape.
I
The
saw
movie's
it
bad.
as an early teenager,
Sure.
and I didn't like it.
Mhm.
But I mean, it wasn't for any. I was too young to really know what was going on. But I look at anytime I think about that movie now, I'm I feel like that movie was kind of shitty in several ways.
Yeah, I remember them being really perverted. At one point they go to college, I think, and they talk about look how more developed the bodies are of these college.
And I bet you they
cheerleaders.
talk like that.
Yeah, because all social outcasts are nerds like that, and they're also
Deviants.
horny. Yeah, they're also horny rapists who just basically force people to have sex
Nerds
with
have
them.
it really rough too, because and then now the kind of the projection of nerds and media is that you like Marvel movies or something.
Or video
There's
games.
Which is like
different
the
kinds,
most
yeah.
popular thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I don't know how that would make you an outcast.
Honestly,
Same with video games.
Nerd isn't much of an insult anymore, and sometimes
Well,
there's even the hot
also,
nerds.
but that the idea of it is wrong though, because those people are no longer nerds.
No, and I don't even know anymore. Like what?
It's kind of like hippies we discussed.
Yeah,
recently.
yeah.
Similar.
connotation.
We're just
changes.
using like not us, but like colloquially as a society, we're using these terms in an outdated manner.
So those are the nerds. We've met them, and Belding's failed yet again to get Penny a date. But again, he's got good news from Zach to make him very happy, which is a sign of a good educator. That he's thrilled. He's thrilled Zach did get his 10th detention and will in fact get a 1-week suspension.
He's quite sinister too. He
This makes his day.
Yes.
So Zach's brokenhearted about that, which I don't really get. I got ISS one time in high school, and it was the best 3 days of my life.
Oh, yeah.
I was in the library just reading the whole time.
It's quiet.
I
It's
don't
nice.
know why. I guess because Zach likes, like, he's popular, so he likes school or whatever, but he was so hurt to get a 1-week suspension. You'd think that would be great news.
I didn't understand that either because Zach being the preppy student or whatever, but he's never someone who gets good grades.
No,
or
he
does
just likes it
anything
for
like
the
that.
social aspect, I
Yeah,
guess.
he goes there
And
to
for the
like
girls.
have a good time.
And look through peepholes in locker rooms or whatever.
Though later
kids
he
do.
does get a 1500 on the SAT.
Oh, wow.
Better
Big
than
cheat.
Jesse. No.
And then becomes the governor, of course, in the reboot.
Yes.
So here's where this takes a little bit of a turn, and Belding's wife calls right after Belding's celebrating Zach getting suspended. And he says, no, I still don't have a date for Penny. I can't make someone go out with her. And then he realizes
He can.
he can.
Nothing like blackmailing a child.
Yeah, and I actually wrote, I meant to look up the definitions. I wrote down he extorts Zach to date niece. And there
no
we go.
fucking joke. I wrote, it's technically extortion.
That's what I was thinking,
not
like
blackmail.
because when he presents Zach with that, he's like, "That's blackmail, sir." I was thinking, I think that's extortion. But either way, tomato, tomato. Belding's being very shady, and he's forcing Zach to either choose between being suspended or taking his oinker niece out for a night at the mall. I love that line too. The nerd said, "Is she an oinker?"
Oinker.
So now we see what kind of pickle Zach's in, and this is why you didn't like the synopsis of Zach getting 2 dates, because one of them is getting thrust on him.
Mhm.
Yeah, he has the date with Kelly, who's just also
His girlfriend.
He's
It's not
very
really a
excited
date.
about it being a date, and it's like you could just. I mean, it's your girlfriend. I guess it's a different time.
Sure.
Maybe dating your girlfriend was more exciting then.
Because it's
Could take it or leave it now. So,
Well, it just seems like a commonplace thing you'd be doing if the person's someone you're in a relationship with.
yeah, maybe he just doesn't feel like they're established enough, and this is going to take him that next
That's
level.
true. It's
Who
only
knows?
season 3.
and he's got to worry about Slater getting her back at some point. So we're back in the hallway, and Kelly drops a bombshell on Zach because Zach's thinking, okay, I have to do this Penny thing on Friday, but I can still go to the party on
And
Saturday.
I only have $20 to do this date, which, by the way, is $43.82
Oh, good. I'm glad
in
you looked.
adjusted money.
So Belding tried to haggle that down to 18, which I thought was a little bit arbitrary. I was thinking,
That's a principal
why not go down to
salary.
like 15 or something? But yeah, he was like 18. And then they ended up going for 20. So yeah, good job getting that $43 in adjusted money, Zach. So we're back in the hallway, and Kelly's saying, you know what? I moved the party to Friday. So we're gonna be doing it a day early. Sorry, I forgot to tell you. She acts like, oh, oops, I didn't tell you it's a whole day earlier. I've told everyone else, but not you, even though you're
Yeah,
my
and there's a
boyfriend.
ton of people attending, so that's like hard to coordinate.
Yeah,
Can
I'm not
you
sure.
imagine doing that? You have 3 days until
Yeah.
your huge party, and you're like, let's just move it forward a day.
You don't
whole
change
day.
the
Fine.
date over something like that. Plus, like, what about the Max?
The
They
Max-
rent out the Max for this thing. Were they planning on doing any business on Friday?
Yeah, and apparently she didn't know that the Max was booked until now. Like she said,
Yeah.
the Max is booked on Saturday, so I'm doing it on Friday. It's like, didn't you know? Didn't you? Kelly's a bad party planner. I'm just gonna
Yeah,
say
and
it.
that David Lynch waiter doesn't arrive to tell her the schedule.
In any case, Zach's he's got a bad situation now. What's he gonna do to get out of this? Well, his first plan is we find out the next day in the principal's office. He comes in, full body cast. He's hurt. He's fallen off a skateboard. He's injured, so he's not going to be able to.
Which is the coolest excuse.
He's not going to be able to take Penny on the date after all. Belding's not fooled. You can't fool a seasoned education.
Extortionist.
You can't fool a seasoned educator like Belding that easily. And he says, you know what? You did this last year at midterms. I'm not falling for it. Just meet Penny at the mall at 7. Bring a red rose so she knows who you are. Get out of my office, you piece of shit.
I did not mind the joke that Zach has tried so many dumb things that he's done this
He's forgotten.
one dumb scheme recently and not remembered it.
Yeah, his line here is, I got to keep better records, when Belding calls him out on that. So
Yeah, that's a fine kid's joke.
I mean, like we said, Zach is a charming shithead. That's what he does. He's good at lying, but you love him anyway, apparently. Although Van does not love Zach.
Yeah,
I hate Zach.
does anyone though? Like,
Did
I
you-
know
well,
People do. I think people do.
because
they look
Mandy and I
fondly
did
about
not
him.
as
No,
kids.
I can't stand him.
Did you?
Manipulative.
Is there any part of this so far that has already kind of made you just grated on you, or just kind of in general?
No, and this is giving it away, but my whole reaction to this episode was boring. I was just bored.
There's
to
a
be honest.
complaint that we'll get to it at the end, but there's a complaint I suspected that you would have, Van, about Zach getting away with his behavior. We're gonna get there, I would assume.
Yes, and it's
Well,
in my
because
notes.
he's so
There's
charming.
One
He's
thing
such a
about doing
charming
this
shithead.
podcast that I mean, there's a million things that I've really come to enjoy, but like understanding each of our predilections towards certain things,
Yeah.
like what we might want to see or not see happen in an episode. And one of Van's that I've really picked up on is a male character being permitted by the plot to misbehave,
To do whatever
and
they
not
want.
be served consequences
No
by the end of the
repercussions.
episode.
Well, if you're good looking and charming and a man, you can do whatever you want.
Don't we all three know it?
I am a man.
We are
I
men.
have that part checked off. Let's go to a place where men shouldn't be. The girls' locker room.
You have the best segues in this show. The best. That was amazing.
That was really good.
In this
Oh.
place, in no man's land here, girls' locker room, girls are talking about Jesse's blind date again because Lisa's really determined for Jesse to take this guy out, or other way around. Jesse imagines Zach hosting a dating show with horrifying people, and there's a Trump joke in there. A Trump
As like
reference.
every third show we cover has some sort of Trump
Somehow.
reference in it from the 90s.
30 years ago.
So in Jesse's mind, she's thinking, if I do a blind date, this makes me desperate. I'll feel pathetic. I'm not doing that. I have to meet him first. She's been wrestling with this the whole time, but here's where it comes out. I think a little unnecessary on the drama part because it's perfectly understandable not to want to do a blind date.
Yeah, you don't have to go to the extent of thinking you might have to date
Freddie.
Teddy Krueger, Mason Voorhees, or Donald Chump, which are the names of these parodies.
Well, let me ask this too. So, of the real characters they're parodying, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, and Donald Trump, who would you rather go on a blind date with?
I think I'd probably be Freddy.
Okay.
Freddy's pretty sassy. And he's killed the least amount of people, maybe, out of the three of them.
I'd be worried because his murderous weapon is attached to him, so there's really, if you do get along with him,
That's true.
it could still go bad.
Even on accident, if things get hot
like if
and
he's
heavy.
hugging you or something, or
Yeah.
if that too.
Hot and Freddy.
You could get just sliced to ribbons on a good date. If the date goes well with Jason, presumably he will put down the chainsaw. I would think, like
Machete, but yes.
whatever it is.
We have to get this right, Spencer. It's important.
I actually have not seen hardly any of those.
Who knows
shows
what he's got
13.
in that lake?
The first one was pretty fun.
I think I did see that one, like when I was 13.
I'm with you, Spencer. I think I'd rather go with Jason. He's quiet, which I appreciate.
I can't help that nobody said Donald Trump.
Yeah, no one went that route.
Well,
But
again, the worst mass murderer of the group.
That you can get him alone and do whatever though is the benefit there. Maybe
True.
you could just
invite Freddy over.
Talk some sense into him.
set him up with a couple of murderers. Oh wow! Or we could do that thing like they did in Steven Universe, where we just tie him to a creature and put him under the ocean forever.
That sounds awesome.
So then we're not killing him; he's just gone.
At first, when you started mentioning Steven Universe, I thought you were going to mean that Freddy and Jason should fuse.
What a monster
That would be
become.
amazing. Yeah, or Donald Trump could fuse with Freddy, and then you got.
I'm in your dreams, ruining your life in there too.
That's a horrible thing that I just created. Worst monster yet. The premise here is we're learning that Jessie has made up her mind. She will consider this, but she's going to have to go on the date.
Which, as you said, is totally reasonable.
She's going to have to meet him first.
So, meet the person
there's a
before
date.
dating them.
Yeah, I don't know if I could do a blind date either. I've never done one, and I don't want to.
Like arranged marriage. Come on, you could do that.
Be stuck with them your whole life.
Yeah, because those kind of cultures are not fond of divorce. So yeah, arranged marriage and just live with them forever. We finally get to meet Brett, who I put down my notes here at the max. Jesse meets the kid because this is not in any way like a private school kid. Like, he looks like a good solid 30 to me or so. But in any case,
I have 39 in my notes.
at least 30. Yeah. He is waiting for her at the Max, and Jesse immediately thinks, okay, well, he's a perfectly fine-looking kid. Let's talk to him a little bit.
Yeah,
get
he
to know
looks
each
like
other.
he might be a responsible accountant. How much of it is how he's dressed? Because this era, again,
The sweater.
he's in like a sweater that looks unreasonably hot, and just like has a weird pattern on it, and his hair's very slicked back, which Tim Robinson would tell you makes
he's a
you a
private
piece of
school
shit.
kid.
Yeah.
He's a private school kid. They all do that there. Haven't
Well,
you?
Jessie dressed up for the occasion and wore her best Steven Seagal frilled jacket, which I was thrilled to see.
And I skipped over this, but the second she walks in and sees him at the table, she immediately is smitten because she asks Lisa, like, "Do I look okay? Is my hair too poofy?"
Yeah,
He's a hunk,
it
of course she
washes
does.
over her face. She's like, "Oh, if I could just get my hands on some Brett."
So she's immediately impressed. She's immediately impressed and asks him to the party after they talk for just a few minutes. And he says something about cheering up his friend who his parents just divorced, and that's all she needs.
And it was all I needed to be like, "Oh, Brett, you're using real life situations immediately to try and get in Jesse's pants."
Yeah.
He gets that concerned look on his little adult face.
That's what friends are for. I've got to support my sad friend. Well, it works.
It's a real
love.
icebreaker. I'm supporting my poor friend whose parents. Oh, nice to meet you too.
Yeah, it's in any case, Jesse's taken aback by it right well in a good way. It's love at first sight. We get an awkward close up. They stare at each other, and then we get the music.
And they
we
want to
all
have
hear.
sex.
We all
here.
hear this in our head when we find our true soulmate.
Is it warm in here or is it me? It's you.
So that was just them staring at each other the whole time.
And making faces and like undulating and like barely being able to control themselves in the booth.
I guess that's as close as you can get to a sex scene in Saved by the Bell, because that was a lengthy thing where they just looked at each other and kind of flushed.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but whenever I get this experience and the music starts playing in my head, there's also a laugh track as well as a lot of hooting and hollering that goes on as well. Work for you?
That's always how it is for me. It's to keep me unsteady. Like, oh, I think this is going well, but some people are laughing at me.
I always hear the laughter in my head. When we get back here, we're going to talk about why this is not quite the match made in heaven we thought.
It's alright, 'cause I'm saved by the It's alright, 'cause I'm saved by the 'cause I'm saved by the
Even though they clicked so well, Jesse and Brett did, it's time for them to part ways. They've got their plans made, and now they both stand up, and we figure out the problem with Brett.
There's got to be a catch.
He's very short. Jesse's very tall. He's very short. It is a sizable difference, and it actually is pretty substantial, I will say.
He stood up, but his head height didn't change from when he was sitting.
Not
That's
much.
how short he is.
Not much. And I put in my notes, oh no, he's short. A shrimp. Exclamation point, because
Second show in a row.
because that's
Renegade,
right.
they call it. One guy a little shrimp.
Yeah. As soon as he leaves, Lisa comes over. How'd you go? He's short. He's a shrimp. She actually says he's a shrimp. That's mean. That's
Again,
very mean.
and this kind of contradicts Jesse's character too.
Exactly. She should be more respectful since she understands what it's like to.
She is
have to
disgusted.
fight. But yeah, she cancels the date right then and there. It's over. That thing is off. And that's all we get about that for now. So Jesse's made up her mind. Height's a deal breaker for her. Now we go.
I'm going to interrupt again.
Yeah,
so
do
this
it.
is a thing that happens on Reddit or whatever. A lot of males will post a thing like, why is it bad if a guy says, I don't like fat fucking chicks, but a girl's allowed to say, I don't like short people? It's that thing that really like dense, dumb guys do.
Yes.
And it drives me bonkers because those people who say that are not saying, a larger person does not attract me. I prefer skinnier people. They say,
No.
fat chicks suck. The thing with the short guy is it's just an attraction thing. Most women who say, I won't date a short guy or I don't want to date a short guy, they don't say that. They go, I don't like shorter guys. It's not what I'm attracted to. And that's fine. You're okay to be attracted to whatever you want. Don't marginalize a group like fat chicks or short guys just because you want to be an asshole about it. It's something that just kind of
Yeah, it's like some sort of like false equivocation that dudes get wrong a lot, of the idea of like, man, women won't like me because I'm nice and fat. And it's like, I don't think that's really why.
Yeah.
In this case, Jessie is being an asshole about it and how she responds to it.
Certainly.
And honestly, that's probably because a guy wrote this part, because I don't think I've ever heard a girl be that mean about height. Like, I don't think sure, they might prefer taller, but they're not going to be like, he's a shrimp.
I can just picture the 5'3" staff writer that's like,
I think
writing this scene.
I think that's what people who have some sort of an issue, like they have a complex about some flaw they have. I think that's the voice they hear in their head, is how Jessie acts there, even though most people are not going to be nearly that harsh about it.
No, or care.
Yeah. It may not be an issue at all, and if it is, it's certainly not that kind of an issue. It's not anything to take personally. So,
also, if someone reacts to you the way Jessie did, that is on that person,
absolutely,
not you for being short.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be another kind of
why would you get
if someone acts that way, it's like, oh, that person's not well adjusted.
Yeah, I don't want to date them anyway because they're kind of an asshole.
Yeah, we have other problems here.
Yeah.
As far as we know now, that's where that situation is, and Jessie is kind of rude. A little bit mean, a little bit of a bitch.
Oh, and I wrote, I wouldn't date that fucking shrimp either. Just want to get that
that's
out.
fair. I definitely did. I'm not as big a fan of Brett as Lisa is. I don't really get that much appeal in it.
No, I think he just sits there and tells every little nice guy story he can.
He seems a little smarmy. I don't like him.
I was working for a charity the other day when
someone dropped a $100 bill and didn't notice, and I ran them down to give it back.
And guys really do that stuff too when they're trying to impress girls. I've heard guys tell, like stories about how they cry over animals, stories and stuff like that. Just all kinds of shit that they will drop in there. And I'm sure, plenty of us misrepresent themselves. It's not just a guy thing, but I've seen guys do it, and it's brutal. It's very painful. So now let's cut to the bathroom, guys. I don't have a segue there. That's the next.
Let's get to the shitter.
Speaking of pieces of shit.
This is a really funny scene to me, though, because Zach and Screech enter the bathroom in this scene. Screech is going in there just to wash his hands and leave. That's all he's doing. He goes straight for the sink.
Which is sort of on brand for Screech.
And Zach's following him in there for some reason. So we learn in the bathroom, where they now are talking together, that Zach wants Screech to pose as him and take Penny on the date on Friday. So he solves his problem with doing that, and he can go to the party with Kelly. He demands that Screech help him, in fact. He's not really asking in this case. And Screech he's resistant. He says, the last time I did a favor for you, I ended up naked on a bus, which is very odd. It was supposed to be a joke. The audience laughed. I don't really get how that could have happened.
Earlier in the episode, Mr. Belding tells us that Zach once attempted to sell the school to the Japanese.
That's true. He's got all kinds of little capers that he plans, apparently. Some of which involve nudity, some of which involve
why
Japanese.
do we have to see these boring capers?
Cue Patton Oswalt saying, why always naked? Call back.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, apparently that just happens in high school. Lots of naked pranks. Again, Screech is reluctant here. Zach won't let go. Apparently, this is a while ago I made these notes, but it says, Zach says, do it, you loser. And Screech says, okay, sure. So he does twist his arm. I guess what it is like, Screech says, what, am I that desperate to go on a date? And he looks at himself and he's like, okay, what time do I pick her up? It's supposed to be funny. Screech is a loser. He's a nerd loser, and he's going to go on this date for Penny. Guess what, guys? Slater was standing on the toilet, which he does mention. They do mention that, and he overheard the whole thing.
I like that joke.
I liked it too, but what was he doing though? I love that when they came in, he was already standing on the toilet.
I guess the implication is that Slater is such a dick that he does that all the time, waiting for gossip that he can fuck with people on.
Which is a nice little layer of insecurity to Slater's character.
I do like they didn't even try to come up with a reason he was doing it, so he was like, it's amazing what you can learn when you stand in the toilet. So he just, every time between classes, he just goes and he goes to the bathroom.
Well, it's time for my toilet time, but it's not what you think.
I said the same thing to Katie the other day, about hearing great things on the toilet. Actually, Brian, you spend a lot of time on the toilet.
I do. I read a lot of good stuff on the toilet.
You can get stuff done on the toilet.
Yeah.
You can get shit done on the toilet. So now, we can't just send Screech out into the world as Zach. We got to train him first. So
love this
Zach
scene.
and Screech are at Zach's house. We get a little peek at Zach's room. Has a bean bag in the corner. And they're practicing so Screech can fool the niece into being Zach. Zach is so smooth, wasn't he, Van? Wasn't he doing a great job of being smooth and showing you how you pick up a lady?
With the finger snapping and the walking. Did you say it's Zach's room, by the way?
Yeah, I think so. I think
it is.
I believe
it shows up a lot through the series.
Well, I'm going to give you a little bit here because I didn't know it was Zach's room. I didn't know if it was Zach or Screech. So I've compiled some things that I saw in the background
good.
that can point one way or the other. So the things in the room that favor it being Zach's room, for me, were, of course, the cool motorcycle jacket hung up in the background. There's a model boat. I mean, like a yacht boat. And clearly this kid's a preppy piece of shit, so he knows about boats.
Which is weird because he's raised by a single mother and they don't have money.
Interesting.
In this iteration of the show.
Interesting.
On the side of the door, you can't quite see, there's a picture of Renegade. I swear to you, there is a picture of Renegade on a motorcycle.
What if it really was?
That'd be amazing, boys. It's somebody on a motorcycle.
I believed
Real
it
cool.
too. I was going to be like, all right, cool.
And then the final thing that favors it being Zach's room was there's a Paula Abdul poster on the wall as well.
Yeah.
So let's look at what could make it Screech's room. There's a really old fucking computer, which it's Screech, he's the loser nerd, sure, I get it. There's also a road sign on the back of the door that says Computer Lane. So again, Screech.
I want that sign. That's awesome.
There's a globe, you know, sure, Screech, nerd, all that. There's purple gemstone window shades.
That could go either way.
I could see that going either way. A baseball glove that has never once been used. It's one of those you bought it at Academy
That
Sports.
could also go either way, I think.
Yeah, because Zach could do it too. I'm a jock, see? But then never really actually do anything.
I think Zach is he's a preppy, and occasionally they pull out that he can play sports.
Sure.
You know how these they're
Not
all,
like Slater,
they're all
though.
good
Slater's
at
the
everything.
athlete.
He's the real athlete.
And then the final thing that I noticed that could indicate that it is Screech's room is a Paula Abdul poster.
Yeah, Screech would definitely be beating it over that thing.
But it's Zach's, okay. Got it.
Yes. Yeah, and the reason I thought that, because I couldn't remember it from other episodes like you did, Brian, but when Screech attempts to learn Zach's moves and falls down the stairs as the comedic gaffer that, I thought, well, he must not be familiar with the house. But granted, that could happen to Screech's character anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Another thing about this scene is they're getting ready for the dance, is practicing to walk, essentially. That's the whole thing. But they're also wearing the quintessential late 80s, early 90s male I'm going to look good uniform of a blue blazer and tan pants, which is just...
And they're a little rumply and baggy, like it's not even form-fitting.
It's like what Tucker Carlson wears now.
Yeah.
And that's why it has to be, is the Reagan 80s, like yacht culture. This is what I...
kind of
Yeah,
thing,
which is why you see like Republicans wear the same stuff now that they wore in 1986. Getting political again.
Yeah. Oh, I like it, though.
Well, you know what the fans said about you.
Yeah, I'm very polarized.
I see you've learned that you're taking the opposite stance today, just to throw them off. Don't be fooled, guys. He is a card-carrying member of QAnon.
Real crossfire episode going on here.
Yeah, I love shitting in the face of logic.
Let's not talk about QAnon anymore.
Deal.
Ever again, if possible.
You guys want to go back to the Bayside hallway because that's where the next scene is.
I do. I want to go there and I want to talk about Screech's shirt.
You found a topic that I much prefer Saved by the Bell to. So yeah, let's go to the hall.
So here we've got a little plot between Lisa and Kelly to show Jesse just what a piece of shit she was.
Great job by these girls too. Loved it.
With Jesse in the middle with their arms crossed and Lisa and Kelly on each side of her, they're going back and forth about weekend plans. Lisa says, "Hey, Kelly, I've got something going on this weekend, but you can't come because only rich people are invited." And Kelly's like, "Okay, that's fine." Jesse says, "No, it's not. You can't do that to her. You can't just eliminate someone from something because of something that's outside of their control," which is exactly what she gets it immediately.
Oh, I can't believe that even in the script, Jesse believed this poor people can't come party that Lisa's having when they're all friends.
Yeah, that's it. The message sinks in right away. Jesse gets it. She says, "Fine, I was rude. I will go on the date." Okay, so Screech approaches next, and he is really excited about his date that he's going on with Penny now. And he's talking to Kelly about it. He's really excited, even though he didn't do any of this, but he's happy. He's thrilled. He's going on a date. And Slater is right here during this part, because Kelly says, "Oh, well, bring her to the party. You don't have to do your own thing. Why don't you bring her?" And Screech says, "Nah, I think we're going to be busy all night. I can't make the party. So I'm just going to be hanging out with my new girl, my fox," I think he says, is what he calls her.
I think he does say that.
I think he does. And so Slater gets his opportunity here to be a shithead. And he says, "You know what, Screech? She's hurt that you're not going to come. You need to bring Penny to the party after you watch the movie with her." So this is for Slater, this is his plan coming to fruition. He's going to break up that relationship and he's going to get Kelly back.
He saw Screech's Cyclops t-shirt and said, "I'm going to hone in on this and screw everything up."
So now we get to go to the party. And even though Jesse has agreed to go with Brett, she is having doubts again, apparently. And they're kind of looking at each other awkwardly and just sitting down. They're not dancing. The dancing's very funny. I wouldn't want to do it either, especially the way that...
It is wild. It's the wildest dancing since that Columbo episode.
Oh, yeah.
Where we approached that 1970s party.
If you just go from...
Flailing limbs.
If we just go from Columbo to this, I'm led to believe that dancing made no progress from 1974 or whatever
no, and
to
that music
1990.
regressed severely.
Yeah, we've got problems with the way TV shows are presenting dancing because it's very bad. I'm not a dancer anyway, but I certainly wouldn't know what to do with that.
The dancing visually looks like the stuff going on in the theme song in the background, like squiggles and hot dogs and guitars and lightning bolts. Only it's just like
human dancing.
It's human dancing.
I said dance is a bit of a liberal term to describe it,
Yeah.
so keep that in mind as we talk about the dancing going on at this weird birthday party, which has just been shifted days.
Which is just, we're going to go to the Max, I guess.
Is it the Max or is it...
Yeah.
Yeah, because they couldn't do it on Saturday.
Just
so.
1X?
I believe so.
I hope so.
I believe
no,
so.
it's weirdly 3. No, I'm just kidding.
It's so hot.
So again, Jessie won't dance with Brett. I thought this was weird because she got over her issues, but then she wasn't. And this is where she makes the weird Arsenio Hall Lakers joke. I forget the context, but it's another pop culture reference that come up there that is like, what was the world like back then? So here is where we start to see how things are going to go with Slater's plan, because Zach and Slater meet at the Punch Bowl, where you meet at parties. That's a common place to go, kind of like the water cooler at work. There's a Punch Bowl at a party, and that's where you talk your shit.
I can't do a punch bowl. It's open. There's no lid. It's just
just
out
drink
in
out of the
air.
same ladle.
Especially now, I
Like
mean,
the
I
water
was
fountain in
already that way,
Hercules.
but post-COVID, it's like the idea of eating a buffet or out of an open punch bowl, it's just like, that's an invitation to end your life.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like actually all party meals like that are kind of weird, like even the Seinfeld episode, the double dipping thing.
Yeah.
Because people do that stuff, and you have to
And they
eat
might
after
start
that.
out being conscientious about it, but by the end, people are just shoving food everywhere and getting their hands in it and going to the bathroom and forgetting to wash their hands.
Ugh. Yeah, it's difficult to have...
Shoving their hand in their grandma's mouth and then grabbing food with that same
It's
hand.
difficult to have like a group meal like that you're supposed to all just kind of pick out of. That's a weird concept. It always has been, especially now.
It's great you bring your grandma to all your parties.
Yeah, all of them.
So at the Punch Bowl, Zach he knows Slater's up to something, but he's not worried. He says, there's nothing you can do to ruin this night. And that's where Screech comes in wearing the blonde wig to make him look like Zach. Unnecessary because she's never seen Zach, but he's still wearing the blonde wig.
He's got to get in the mood.
And here's Penny.
It's a Trump wig, by the way. Same one.
It's the same one from when he played Donald Trump.
Is it really? I didn't notice that.
Mhm.
I guess they only had one wig in the budget, but in any case, that's what Screech is wearing with Penny on his arm.
Penny, who's played by the Olsen twins when they were babies.
I said she looks like...
Oinker?
An oinker, yes. The origin story of Victoria Jackson, because we've seen a lot of those Christian movies now.
She
with
does
her in
look
it.
kind of like, and it's more what the deal is they've put her in some sort of like ball gown,
Yeah.
Like fairy tale gown.
and
Yeah.
turned her hair into not hair anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, in any case, they do look a little odd, but they're having a really good time.
Yeah, they get along well.
Penny has really taken to Zach, well, using quotes here because it's, of course, Screech. Zach is really concerned that Screech has shown up to the party with Penny, corners him and says, you gotta go. You're gonna ruin everything. And they're working this out while Brett's working on Jessie, saying, hey,
He's climbing the mountain.
are you sure you don't want to dance? And she's like,
Madam, let's dance.
Oh, but hold on. I seem to have heard that in the distance a dog has been hit by a car and I must take it to the veterinary clinic.
He might as well, because Jessie's not having it. She's
No.
not going to dance. He says, well, do you mind if I dance with Lisa? So he gets up and he goes to dance with Lisa and confesses, hey, this isn't going well. She's still hung up on the height thing. And Lisa's going to have to intervene to save this date. It's become very, very dangerous. She tells Jessie, you're about to blow it with a really good guy.
The coolest man who's ever existed.
I don't know why she likes Brett so much.
I don't know. Well, a few years later, he actually, in an alternate universe, marries Renegade's wife.
Oh God! I was going to say, is this real? And then you threw that in there.
Well, he's wearing the same sweater.
Well, Renegade saw him from behind that tree.
So here's the part that I thought was really, it was funny in a way that wasn't supposed to be. I know it was supposed to be funny, but it was just so dumb. So they make up again. Jesse once again says, I was being a jerk. I thought she already figured this out.
This is they do the same plot twice,
Exactly,
just
yeah.
in a row.
Sorry, I was being a jerk. I'll do better. Can you forgive me? They dance, they make up. And then they have this back and forth dialogue, which I guess happens on every dream date.
I'm sorry, Brett. I've acted like a real jerk.
Well, Jesse, I am short.
Yeah, but I'm the one who has to grow up. Can you ever forgive me?
You're forgiven, Beanpole.
Thanks, Shorty.
The awe comes from after their pet nicknames for each other, Beanpole and Shorty, which is a great first date right there. They hug and
Jesse puts her breasts atop his head.
They get naked. They go at it in the punch bowl. No, they're getting along after all. I think she rests her head, the foot down to his shoulder, and they're cuddling or whatever while they stand. So the audience loves it. That date's going well. Everything's fine there.
Well,
But-
that's before he has to leave to get back to his job as a bank teller at Gringotts.
He really is quite short, I will say. I mean, what do you guys think he actually is? Like
5'4".
Yeah, that's exactly what I was
like
gonna say.
something, and she's like what, like 5'10", 5'11", something
Probably.
like that. So it is, it's a sizable difference. I get why she would have issues. Like I wouldn't be able to do it. I wouldn't be able to date a 6'4" woman. I wouldn't be able to do 6 inches.
What if I shave the beard? That'd be fine.
Well, there would be an exception because there's so much chemistry already.
Yeah. You know what? Personality fixes a lot of problems. I agree with
Well,
that.
it does.
So Slater, meanwhile, keeps fucking things up. He's telling Penny to tell Kelly that she and Zach, Screech, are having a great time. He just won't let this go. He's determined to ruin this whole thing for everyone.
To the point where he's not even doing anything else at the party.
No, he went there just to ruin everything and get Kelly back.
And wear a silk bowling shirt with his pleated pants.
Pretty cool.
Penny tells Kelly that she loves Zach and they're going to leave together to fuck at her uncle's house. It's essentially
Verbatim.
Yeah, she says my uncle's not going to be there, if you know what I mean. And so Kelly's just she's had it at this point.
She
She's
also
like,
says a line that I remember verbatim.
"Is
from
it the
childhood.
unnice lady or whatever?"
No, it's he's so hot he makes my teeth sweat.
Oh, Penny, yeah, Penny's saying the thing
when
about
Penny's talking to
which
Kelly.
is kind of gross.
It's really gross. And when it happened, I knew what she was going to say before she said it. And it was the most eerie sense of deja vu of like, my brain 30 years later has decided to store that.
It thought, this is important.
Yeah.
I wonder if at the time it struck you as gross, or you thought it was, maybe as a child, maybe you thought it was a scandalous comment or funny or something.
Funny
Who
as hell.
knows?
Yeah, I'm sure.
I
You were,
probably
like,
thought it
gut
was pretty
laughing.
funny.
Well, the audience loved it. They ate that shit up. I think Penny's disgusting, and Principal Belding should be ashamed of his niece. That's just, ugh. She's going to take Screech home and fuck him at her uncle's, which I guess Principal
Well,
Belding's
when
not
you
there.
get a Dustin Diamond in your hands, you don't let go.
Oh yeah, that's very true. We could probably make a pun there about him being a diamond in the rough or something.
He's a
but
double D.
That's that's just
Diamond.
kind of low hanging fruit. So I'm going to skip over that idea.
Eventually,
Yeah.
she'll get sick of him and just be like, get your sweaty teeth away from me.
So Kelly loses it at this point, screams at her, stops the party, calls her an unnice lady or something. I guess she's still confused that she's talking about the real Zach, but very quickly learns that that's not really Zach.
Which
and
this confused me because
It's
she
weird.
seems to know it's not really Zach
yeah,
right
she's
away.
like, get over here, Zach number one, but she's
Yeah.
still mad.
She
Well-
might just be mad that the whole thing's going on.
And when the whole time when Penny and Kelly are discussing all of this, in the background, no less than 2 feet from them, is Screech.
Yeah, right
it's
there.
fake Zach, yes.
So it was very jarring to me. I remember I watched that, and then I was like, wait a minute. I had to back up and watch it again, see if I missed something.
There are
That's
a lot of
shame that
scenes
you had to do
too-
that.
Yeah,
you
it
had to go
is.
back and watch more Saved by the
Talk
Bell.
about those sweaty
Because
teeth.
of a studio audience and you can't block the sound, there's so many scenes where extras are mouthing words in the background when they're not
Oh, I
really
didn't
talking.
notice that. That's great.
There's a lot of shows around this era where this kind of thing goes on, and it's pretty awesome.
It could just be, too, that this plan that Slater thought it was much more effective than it was. It could be that no one was ever fooled by his setup, and that he's
Actually,
just
I
stupid.
like that interpretation of the
That's
whole
good,
time.
yeah.
Everyone's like, what the fuck? And then
Slater thinks it's this
he's pulling
Machiavellian
one
plot.
off on everyone, yeah.
So anyway, it's a weird thing that Kelly immediately figures out. She is still mad at Zach. She does confront him. And immediately you think Slater's standing right behind Zach. He's all content and smug. He's like, I'm going to break him up after all. But then Kelly has a change of heart and says, I can see how much trouble you went just to make me happy on my birthday. They hug. She kisses him on the cheek. All's well. The episode's over.
And then right after that, a just ripping guitar solo comes in to play the vocal line of the theme song to play us out. And this is what I alluded to earlier, which is Zach schemes and lies and plots and cheats, and in the end, Kelly loves him all the more for it.
Yeah.
And this is the exact kind of thing we discussed when discussing Zach Braff's movie Last Kiss, which Van hates very much. So I think we should turn it over to Van to see what he has to say.
I like that idea.
About Zach getting off scot-free.
I'm just going to read what I wrote in my notes.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
So this is, I wrote these in advance.
I wish I had
2
some
weeks ago.
popcorn.
In my
this.
notes, it says, basically, pass this to you.
Mine says, is Zach the precursor to the Zach Braff style of character writing? The flawless fuck brain who no one ever gives any shit to? So I do think, obviously I said that, I do think there's a little something to that, and it's why I don't like Zach.
Yeah.
Is he never seems to face any repercussions, and when he does, it's not even real. Like the ones they'll do, they'll be like, oh, Zach, you have to mow the lawn twice. You know, it's like, who cares? Nothing ever changes. And we learned that nothing really did ever change when we watched the sequel series or whatever it is. But what I wanted to say about this episode was, I don't think Zach was doing anything truly awful here. He didn't want to do this. He was being blackmailed into doing it.
Because he would have been in actual school trouble, which we don't, it's
Right.
not explained, but maybe his mom would be disappointed.
Sure,
or
whatever it may be.
And the adult authority figure is actually, technically, Mr. Belding is doing a
Yeah.
fucked up thing.
He's the villain of this one for sure.
And what exactly was bad about what Zach did? He wanted to be with his girlfriend. That's all
Yeah.
it was. He didn't do anything mean to Kelly. He didn't even necessarily do anything mean to Screech.
He withheld information from
He
Kelly.
did sort of, yeah,
Sure.
and he did sort of.
Which in my relationships, I've been told is a
a
definite
bad
thing I
thing.
should stop doing.
Got to do communication. They got to do that.
It's very important.
You don't want to risk getting the cold shoulder from your significant other.
So this episode, I mean, Zach didn't really bother me as much, except when he was on screen. But the concept of Zach didn't bother me about this episode.
Well, to further this point, though, about Zach, throughout the series, this sort of thing happens. Like, he doesn't put any effort into anything he does. He winds up marrying Kelly, who is who he wants to be with.
He does win that battle, yes.
Yeah, he gets the highest SAT score in the school, so he can go to Yale. You know, like everything that can go right goes right without any sort of effort.
Nothing
which is
ever
kind
goes
of the
wrong.
male fantasy.
Yeah.
And then he becomes governor of California.
Yeah.
Well, and I do think, though, that there are people who just they're just born into that kind of lucky situation where that does happen, where they
Yeah.
didn't really earn it. And
Usually
they,
it's money involved.
right. But, you know, sometimes
charisma does.
and
Yeah.
looks, absolutely. Like, I mean, there are certain people that I don't feel like they really did earn their status in life. And it's not just money. It's,
Almost anyone that has any status that would be true
Yeah,
of.
it's-
It's honestly just how things work.
right.
And he
Under
looked-
market capitalism.
Some people are just... Some people are more likely to get handed things in life, and that's
And-
just the way it is.
we can look at these things objectively. The three of us can. So Zach, handsome-looking kid, right?
Sure.
Mark Paul Gosselaar, what do you think of him older? Is he still the hunk, or
I
are you
wish
just kind of
that
like
He's
eh?
multiple
I
hunks
wish
later.
I had picked an episode that he was in the reboot. Unfortunately, the one we picked, he's not. But no, he's he's not really like fat. He just looks bloated.
No, he's like me. Like,
He
he
looks
just looks like
puffy.
he used to look, but puffier.
He's got a sad face that's just kind of
His mouth sags a little
Mhm.
bit.
He's a little red too. He's got like a red
Yeah.
skin tone. Kelly's the same way. She's a little bit puffy.
Yeah, but I mean, they look good.
they look fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I will say I did see Mark Paul Gosselaar in an episode of Weeds like 10 years ago, and he looked, he was like ripped.
Interesting.
Yeah, so
Good
I
for
mean, but now he's got to be like 50. I mean,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
the difference between
At
40
least like
and 50
10 years older than us,
is
right?
quite a bit.
Yeah. I want to add that I do think that Zach was a little bit, being Screech's friend, I think he was a little manipulative in getting Screech
Yes,
to do that.
and
Now,
that's another
Screech went
common
along with
thing in
it,
the
but that's
series.
probably the worst thing that Zach did in this episode. The rest of it was pretty defensible. But with Screech, he did that was a power play on Screech. Like, Screech is definitely the lesser of the popular, he's on the low end of that totem pole. He's probably feels like he's lucky to be friends with Zach, and Zach leveraged that against him, and that is the only thing I thought.
Yeah, the friend dynamics, and we'll get into this more when we cover the new series next episode, but I felt the friend dynamics between that series and this series were actually considerably different, even though that series plays some of the same types of plot lines out.
I mean, there's only probably so many plot lines you can cover in a Saved by the Bell episode. I know that they mostly tried to tackle lighthearted stuff in this original run. Probably not as wholesome as the original
Not
ones
until
that you
they
watched
get
on Disney.
to when they get to Mr. Belding's arson trial.
There's a note on the wiki page that they did occasionally try to do more heavy-handed stuff. Like, I know we talked about it in, I think, the California Dreams one, where there's some drug things that come up occasionally.
There are some brutal ones in Saved by the Bell where they misunderstand the point, thanks to the war on drugs marketing.
Right.
And instead of even talking about like what the dangers of drug addiction might be, they make it out like smoking a joint will ruin your life forever, instead of improve it entirely.
Kind of like that reefer madness style
Yeah,
of
it
mentality.
is. And that had gone away to some degree
Mhm.
in the 60s and 70s, only be brought back in the 80s along with the blue blazer and tan pants.
Goddamn Ronald Reagan, him and Nancy.
Yep. Van, would you like to do an impersonation of Ronald Reagan real quick?
Nancy, I believe I'd like to eat some jelly beans. Do you guys know it's a thing? He ate jelly beans.
I believe
He is
it.
the reason jelly beans are popular to this day.
Wow.
I know my Reagan facts.
I'm glad that I don't like jelly beans now. Like, actually, I've never
They're kind of gross,
I've never been a
right?
fan. They're just big hunks of sugar that are slightly
I mean,
hard.
that's-
I
When you
can
say
only
it like
have
that, it
like
sounds
3 of them or something like that, and I'm fine with that. But I can't eat very many of them. Also, here's some trivia for you guys. I don't know if you know this, but on the like, if you go to a railroad crossing, how there's like the RR sign that as you approach it, it used to stand for Ronald Reagan. They only recently changed it to railroad.
like last year.
Yeah. Also, George R. R. Martin stands for George Ronald Reagan Martin.
George Railroad Martin. When we finish the reboot next week, I am gonna we'll come back to this one. We'll kind of compare and contrast, so we can talk a little bit more about this show next time. I don't have any other thoughts about this episode. Like Van said, it's not very good. I was trying to. I did a similar date theme for both so that we'd have something that kind of related to each other.
Yeah.
But I probably could have found a better episode of this original because it wasn't great. There's not much going on for it, and I don't have anything else to say about
It's
it.
a little less wild. There's a point in Saved by the Bell when it, like all of these sorts of sitcoms, jumps the shark, like Happy Days was the first to do by jumping a literal shark. More crazy things happen, like Screech inventing Kevin the Robot. And I was kind of hoping for some of that stuff to seep in. But this is a pretty accurate snapshot of the sorts of things Saved by the Bell did during its heyday, though. I will say that. And it's with the core cast.
I remember liking it a lot as a kid. But
I did too.
Yeah, this was just not. I can't imagine liking this even as a
Not
kid, but maybe I would have.
substantive.
Maybe I would have. I don't know.
Well, it feels kind of like the Hey Dude, the first episode we
Yes.
watched. So honestly, if we would have watched 2 episodes of the original run, who knows? Maybe the second one would have been Screech
We
Bill
would
and the
have
Robot,
seen
something crazy.
similarly.
Maybe they would have all played baseball.
We would have undoubtedly found some wackier stuff in later seasons that also was not good television, the same way we did with Hey Dude, yeah, or
Oh,
California Dreams.
And let me say this too before we leave. I told you this when you got here earlier today, Brian. The first time I watch a show and we're going to cover it, I just sit down and watch it. I don't think about notes. I don't.
Oh,
think
but
about
then
anything.
you have to watch it more than once.
Yeah, I know. That's the bad
I
idea.
unfortunately do also always watch them twice. It's
And the first time I watched this one, I was bored.
Yeah.
I did not like it. The second time I did it, when I started taking notes, I start paying more attention to the background stuff. I see, like, for example, what's in Zach's room, little funny things that made me laugh, and I enjoyed it immensely. Well, not immensely. I enjoyed it a lot more.
well,
than I did
there's
the first
also just
viewing.
a lot more to enjoy when you're a child of this time.
Sure.
Just looking at what it looks like.
The style. I mean, we talked about everybody's clothes because they're
Yeah.
all awful.
So many high pants. It's everything
Very
we watch.
high
High
pants.
pants.
Denim. Yes.
Slater
Yeah.
pretty much like doesn't have a shirt in most of his scenes. He's got the cutoffs and it's
You
like,
can't even fit sleeves on those arms.
he's
Also, I
just
saw a
such
picture of
hunk.
him recently.
He looks about the same.
Well, I saw weird marks on his elbow, the inside of his elbow. So I was like, "Ooh, did he have a drug problem?"
Like stretch
he tore
marks.
his bicep,
Oh.
so he had surgery. It's kind of jarring. I just happened to see it. I think it was in the next episode when he's at his desk. I saw his weird bicep.
I thought
And
maybe
that's
they
what it
would
was.
have taken some skin off of his elbow and put it on his face because he's clearly had plastic surgery.
Oh, yeah.
You can tell.
There's
I mean,
been work done.
he looks like a CGI character in the face in that reboot, which we will talk about all these characters.
He looks like Pixar's Mario Lopez.
They all reprise their roles. Of course, we didn't get Kelly and Zach in the one we're going to be talking about, but
But they do reprise their role.
except for Dustin Diamond, unfortunately,
Rest in
and
peace.
And Mr. Belding.
and Dennis Haskins. Yeah, because they have a new principal. So those
Is
two
he
were
dead,
not
or
there.
does he just not want to
I
do
don't
it?
think he's dead. I think he
Okay.
just didn't do it.
He outlived Dustin Diamond. Good for him.
He would have wanted it that way. Once again, I'm Spencer Hendricks. I have hosted this. I'll be hosting next week too, so I hope you're not too tired of me yet. We've got Brian Vaughn with me. He is at Loud Guitar Brian on Twitter. Got Van Lee with me. He is at Manly Van Lee on Twitter. Van dropped a sneaky little reference earlier to our Patreon, patreon.com/Bootu Inc. Go there, give us as little as $2 a month. That helps us make even better content, even though we do a pretty good job already, I would say. We've also got a website, boobtubeboys.com. And we're on Instagram. We'll eventually have some photos on there even. That's also Boob Tube Boys. You just Google Boob Tube Boys and I'm sure we'll come up with all the matches. We can't wait to interact with you guys. Find us on social media all over the place. Interact with us, give us money. It'll be worth your while. We're gonna continue to deliver good content. We look forward to it. So thank you for listening.
It's alright.
A wackier thing that is
To win the
no
farm.
better in episode. Wow.
You'll get there.
That sounded so patronizing. You can do it.
Come on, buddy.
Come on, little fella, little slugger. Come on, tiger.